Hello, good afternoon. It is your host, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, and today's date is Sunday, November 2nd, 2025. The time is 12:45 p.m., and I am in Miami, Florida. The topic of today's lecture is future vision. The reason I chose the title for this lecture as future vision is because it becomes increasingly obvious to me as time rolls on that clandestine gang stalking, the state-sanctioned signaling mechanism that results in the blatant and oftentimes hostile disenfranchisement of sovereign United States citizens at the hands of other sovereign United States citizens has a vision for the future. This program is not one that has a publicly observable expiration date. At the present time, it's ongoing. Now, I do believe that my work and the work of others with respect to the exposure of this covert community mobbing mechanism has had some success, and that the American public, those in the private sector, and those in the public sector here in the United States, including elected officials, are coming to the realization that the accounts of gang stalking that targeted persons like myself and my significant other Lori have brought to the attention of the general public through online communication methods are valid and have merit and are worthy of investigations. When I look back on the totality of the gang stalking mechanism, particularly the components of that mechanism that I've experienced over the past 30 years, it's become increasingly obvious to me that not only is there an attempt by the orchestrators and participants of this program to engineer a society that suits their ideas of what society should be, but this program is also designed to forge a future for people who simply don't like the way American society operates now. And I'll give you some examples as to what I mean. And I will remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that I do these lectures outdoors, and I may have to project or raise my voice from time to time to drown out any background noise. So please adjust your volume accordingly. The future that I see, the orchestrators and the participants of gang stalking desiring, meaning the future that it's obvious that they want, is one where persons get to decide covertly what other persons are able to do when they leave the house each morning. Okay? I'll give you an example. So, if you walk into a shopping mall, okay, and you have a tag on you, and when I say a tag, I don't mean like a shopping tag. I mean you are marked. Okay, you're a targeted person. You were followed to the mall by clandestine actors, and when you arrive to the mall, those same clandestine actors or other clandestine actors that the original actors have signaled will begin signaling other stalkers in and around the mall as to your location and your presence. Okay? A targeted individual is constantly being marked as suspicious by gang stalkers, people who signal one another in a covert fashion using physical gestures, vehicular maneuvers, and verbal commands as to a targeted individual's immediate whereabouts, regardless of where he is at that particular time. So let's say you go into a shopping mall and there were stalkers outside of the mall that were signaling other stalkers as to your presence. As you enter the mall, Stalker A will signal Stalker B that a target or someone that needs to be watched or monitored or descended upon has just entered the mall. Maybe it's a hand gesture, maybe it's a verbal command, maybe if they honk their horn 5 times, that means approaching or something to that effect. It's possible that text messages and phone calls are made in which code words and so forth are used to announce the target's presence into the shopping mall. At that point, the recipients of these code words, of these signals, of these gestures, will wait on you to appear, at which point they will signal other stalkers in the area, inside the mall, inside the various stores, inside the food court, that you are present and that you are the mark, you are the target. Now, if you are unwanted in the mall, let's say you're not dressed up to standard, or let's say you are in the mall or a part of the mall where there are women present or teenage girls present or children present or other parties present that your observers don't want you around, or they don't care for you being around, they can arrange for you to be explicitly harassed right where you sit so that you'll get up and move to another part of the mall. If the next part of the mall you move to has people, maybe it's senior citizens, maybe it's students, maybe it's other third parties, that the stalkers in that part of the mall don't want to see you around, then the signaling mechanism starts all over again, and other stalkers who receive those signals will descend upon you in such a way so as to make you get up and move again. Now, if your presence in the mall is just simply not welcome at all, it's not going to matter what part of the mall you go to. You can go to the food court. You can sit in front of a store that is low traffic. You can sit near the front exit or the back exit or the side exit. If your presence in that particular mall is not welcomed by the stalkers in the mall, no matter where you sit in the mall, you are going to encounter signaled stalkers that will descend upon you, and in such a manner that is rude, obnoxious, or hostile that will make you want to get up and leave the mall altogether. And that's the point. When you're in a public place, for example, okay, it's going to be predetermined from the moment you set foot in that public place how long you should be able to stay in that public place comfortably, and in what parts of the public place. I've often said in previous lectures that liaisons get the action started. They're wards of the state. They're the ones that do the initial signaling. Now, where they get their marching orders from, there are a number of organizations that could be involved in that. Okay, it could be auxiliaries of the national security apparatus in this country. It could be auxiliaries of the intelligence apparatus in this country, but it's going to be one of the two always. Okay, because a targeted individual's trajectory through this world as a targeted individual is up to the national security apparatus in this country and or the intelligence apparatus in this country. So these apparatuses constantly have eyes on the target. Okay? These eyes have direct communication with liaisons. When the eyes see a target go to a public place, it doesn't have to be as large as a shopping mall. It could be something a little smaller, like a grocery store or a restaurant or a public library. It could be a shoe store somewhere, a clothing store. It could be a convenience store like a Walgreens or a CVS. Okay? When a targeted person gets to a public place, okay, the eyes signal the liaisons as to your presence and location. Okay, it could be electronically, it could be with gestures and cues. And when I say electronically, I mean like with cell phone technology or perhaps earpieces, where liaisons are getting a live feed from a third party as to the target's whereabouts. Then the liaisons signal the stalkers. And the stalkers are the ones that typically approach the targeted person with disgusting, obstructive, disruptive, or annoying behaviors. You see? So, envision a world where a person could be endlessly disenfranchised in secret. Imagine a world where a person goes into a restaurant, and if the people in the restaurant, particularly those who use the organized stalking mechanism, see this person enter, it could be by himself, or it could be with his significant other, it could be with his children, it could be with another group of people, and they don't like this group, they don't like this family, they don't like this person entering this particular restaurant, particularly at that particular time. They can easily, okay, particularly with experienced gang stalkers, they can easily mark you as undesirable or suspicious or deviant or whatever they like to do, and signal other known stalkers in the restaurant. Or even if there are no known stalkers, all they have to do is create signals as to the desire for you to leave, to not be in that restaurant. Anyone who reads signals, verbal commands, etc., who know how to use this gang stalking mechanism to pester or harass people, they'll pick up on those signals right away and begin devising mechanisms and tools to get you to leave the restaurant in such a way so as to forget that this is a free country. And quite frankly, if you don't respect that it's a free country, then that's your problem, not mine. So they want to do this in such a way so as to make that person not ever return to that particular restaurant. It's not so much a situation where they want to harass you or pick with you or disgust you that day. They want to do this in a way that will prevent you from ever returning now or in the future. So, Stalker A decides this isn't the type of person, or these aren't the type of people I want in this restaurant. They'll send signals blindly. They might not know if there are any other stalkers in the restaurant. These signals will or will not be picked up on by other patrons in the restaurant. The ones that do pick it up and see that you're the mark, they're the ones that descend upon you with obnoxious behavior, the kind of which will make you uncomfortable, the kind of which that will disgust you, and the kind of which that will make you want to leave that restaurant early and never return, which is what the stalkers want. Okay? Imagine a state-sanctioned covert signaling mechanism that people can tap into anywhere, anytime, any place, for any reason, against any person, so as to discourage them or disenfranchise them completely. Imagine a world where a parent or two parents take their child to a charter school or a private school or any school that requires more than just a child's name and social security number to enroll in classes. And when that parent brings that child to that school, a number of covert communication mechanisms are exchanged between staff members, students, and other affiliates of that school to create a circumstance or an environment of pure hostility against that parent and child, so that when that parent and child leave the initial interview process for that private school, they'll drive home thinking, maybe I don't want my child at that school, or maybe it would be a better idea for us to find another public school to enroll, or another private school to enroll my child in. That's the point. That's the purpose. That private school cannot look the parent and the child up and down and say, the way you talk, the way you look, the way you carry yourself, the demographic of your kid, we're not sure you'd be a good fit at this school. So maybe you should look elsewhere for your child's educational needs. That's overt discrimination, and that is something that could be investigated by the state and cause the private school to incur not only financial penalties, but possibly other sanctions and investigations, and possibly bad press, which would hurt the school's image. So how could we disenfranchise or discriminate against this parent and kid that we just don't think would belong here? Not because the kid's not smart enough to be at this school, not because the parent couldn't afford to send them here. It's just there are other reasons why we don't think that this parent or this child or this family would be happy with this school. That's where the clandestine signaling mechanism comes into place. You can silently, covertly, and in a weaselly or hostile way discriminate or disenfranchise a family, a child, in such a way that is difficult to detect. So even if the child's parent decides to file a complaint with the state, believing that they were discriminated against by that school, they would have little to no evidence, because the harassment mechanism was signal based, very difficult to detect, and essentially invulnerable to any kind of legal action at all. And that's what gang stalking is. It's a hard to detect disenfranchising mechanism in which persons can behave like total jerks, total pricks, total schmucks, with no recourse whatsoever. And they can actually discriminate not only in the workplace, but in academic settings. They can discriminate against you in businesses. They can discriminate against you in public places. They can discriminate against you in churches. They can discriminate against you anywhere that is a incorporated entity. They can discriminate against you and disenfranchise you using these covert signals and mechanisms. And and because these mechanisms are covert, these signals are covert, these actions are covert, there's little to nothing that you can do about it. You just have to either accept the abuse and continue on with that institution, or take it to heart and go to another institution and try there. And that's the point. The point is to be able to harm or disenfranchise other persons in a hard to detect fashion. Because if you look at the American legal code, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of discrimination laws and laws that prohibit institutions, businesses, persons, and places of public interest from discriminating against other people. And it doesn't have to be discrimination. It could be a person being a disgusting prick and conducting themselves in a manner that's hostile or just plain dumb, and getting away with it very cleanly, and getting away with it in such a way that is difficult to bring to the attention of federal, state, or local authorities. So ultimately, the type of person that would participate in a clandestine gang stalking mechanism, even if that mechanism is hard to detect or secretive, that's the kind of person who is unconfident or inconfident with their own abilities to succeed in society without a total waste of taxpayer resources at their disposal to attempt to disenfranchise people with no recourse. I mean, it's totally slimy, it's totally weaselly, it's totally perverted, and it's totally hostile. And in my estimation, the kind of person that would participate in something so weaselly or derogatory or derivative of just plain blind, silly, or stupid hatred is the kind of person that you need for gang stalking. I mean, there are people all across this country who don't necessarily identify with the idea of a meritocracy. In my opinion, all countries should be a meritocracy. A meritocracy is a country that allows a person to succeed based on their talents, abilities, work ethic, and their ability to master a trade or an occupation or a academic discipline and use the skills they learn to create a good life for themselves. That's the concept of a meritocracy. There are people in this country that don't believe that. There are people in this country that believe that success should be reserved for people based on qualities or traits that don't resemble good work ethic, commitment to one's occupation, commitment to success, that kind of thing. There are people in this country that think people should be able to attain success based on other factors outside of that, quite frankly, don't mean anything. Who your parents are, what's your demographic background, what community do you live in, what kind of church do you go to, what are your personal beliefs, what language do you speak, what are your attitudes on this political matter or that political matter. Stuff that in the grand scheme of things means little to nothing with respect to how productive you can be for yourself or for a company. You see, there are people that believe a person should be able to attain success based on factors that allow the disenfranchisement of a person regardless of their talent, regardless of their work ethic, regardless of their ability to demonstrate commitment to a task or to a project, regardless of their personal IQ, okay, regardless of their ability to be dynamic in the workplace or be dynamic in this institution or in that institution. There are people that believe that you should be able to succeed or chase success, and not just personal success or occupational success, but interpersonal success based on factors other than that. Okay? That is the ultimate form of disenfranchisement. That is the ultimate form of discrimination, because you're basically saying to a person, I don't care how hardworking you are. I don't care how industrious you are. I don't care how patriotic you are. I don't care how observant you are. I don't care how devoted you are. I don't care how committed to your family's success and progress you are. I don't care how committed you are to society. I don't care how committed you are to the political process in this country. I don't care about anything other than what language you speak, what demographic you are, how you dress, and what kind of verbiage or lingo you use when you're around this person or that. And the cherry on top is, do you know signaling? Do you know gang stalking? Do you know how to quietly disenfranchise people? Do you know how to quietly pester people? Do you know how to quietly insinuate to people that they're not welcome here or there? Do you know how to discriminate quietly? Do you know how to disenfranchise people in a way that's so quiet and so hard to detect that the person you're discriminating against doesn't know they're being discriminated against? Do you know how to use the mobbing mechanism to use other persons to gang up on party A, B, or C in such a way that will make them want to get up, leave, and never come back? Do you know how to do you know how to gang up with your community to harass a person out of a neighborhood? Do you know how to gang up with your coworkers to find a way to harass a person out of a workplace? Do you know how to gang up with your fellow congregants at church in order to harass a person out of your congregation? Do you know how to gang up with your family members in order to pester one of your family members out of family affairs? That's the kind of person we want, okay? Says the gang stalker, says the undercover, says the liaison. Those are the kinds of people we want, because those are the kinds of people that will allow us to alter society in the way we want it altered. We envision a world where people use clandestine signaling mechanisms of a state-sanctioned nature to drive anyone out of any establishment, any entity, any neighborhood, or any church we want. We don't have to produce a reason. We don't have to take documents. We don't have to enter any data as to why we do this into a computer. We don't have to expose ourselves to federal, state, or local punishments for our disenfranchisement of other people. We can just get together, like-minded stalkers, send a few signals among us, mark a target, and get rid of them. That's the kind of future that gang stalkers want for the United States. It's no longer about how good you are at something. It's no longer about how committed you are to something. It's no longer about your personal work ethic or your personal qualities. It's no longer about your intelligence quotient or how bright or adaptable you are. Gang stalkers want a society where persons who use signaling mechanisms to the advantage of a group against the interests of an unwanted or an undesirable to be the law of the land, and the only law of the land. If you can find a way in any institution, public or private, to get together with other affiliates of that institution to drive out individual persons, regardless of if they deserve to be driven out or not, and get away with it cleanly, that's how you know you've arrived as a gang stalker. That's how you know this signaling mechanism is able to create social change in a way that is quiet, undetectable, full of discrimination and malice, and difficult to prosecute in the court of law. That's the nature of gang stalking, and that's the kind of future that gang stalkers want. Now, you don't have to be a member of the national security apparatus in this country, or a member of the intelligence community. And when I say intelligence community, I use that term a lot in my lectures. I'm talking about the federal auxiliaries in this country, for example, like the CIA, for example, and various other what they describe as intelligence apparatus in the United States. Mind you, the CIA stands for Central Intelligence Agency. That word intelligence in this respect is not necessarily talking about the kind of intelligence that a person can show. For example, if you write good essays or if you score well on your exams in school, you can be generally regarded as intelligent. We're not talking about that kind of intelligence. When you're talking about the intelligence apparatus in this country, when you're talking about the Central Intelligence Agency, when you're talking about the kind of intelligence that is used at the federal level, you're talking about intelligence with respect to being able to observe, perceive, and gather data on citizens, governments, and businesses in an unlimited capacity, using a variety of explicit and implicit mechanisms. For example, an explicit mechanism would be a stakeout or something like that. Or maybe you have officers in a squad car sitting out in front of a school, observing the passersby, observing the children, observing the parents, and taking a mental note of what he sees. That's explicit. That would be considered an explicit intelligence protocol. Okay? Because the person gathering the data is out in the open and is plain for everyone to see. Okay? A covert intelligence mission would be something like you have a team of plainclothes federal law enforcers or plainclothes military personnel in a neighborhood acting as if they are simply residents of the neighborhood, when all the while they are observing suspected pedophiles or dope peddlers or burglars in the area and relaying that information to federal, state, or local law enforcement. That would be an example of a covert intelligence mission. You see? So intelligence is simply observing, okay? When you talk about federal intelligence, that is a federal auxiliary that observes the country at large using a combination of explicit and covert mechanisms. So when you're talking about being able to control society, control who gets what job where, controlling who goes to school where, controlling who can live in what neighborhood without violating the laws explicitly, well, then you turn to a program like clandestine gang stalking. For example, if you're a person of this background or that background or this demographic or that demographic, and you move to a new neighborhood and you can afford to live there. It's a beautiful neighborhood. You're gainfully employed. Your family is well taken care of. You've established yourself in society. You can afford to live in that neighborhood. But Let's say that your neighbors or the community, upon your move-in day, decide, we're not quite sure we want that fella in this neighborhood or his family. You can't, as a community, go to city council and say, there's a family that just moved into this neighborhood. Here's their address. Here are their names. This is the car they drive. Here are their license plates. We want you as a city council to force that family to move out of this neighborhood because we don't think they're a good fit here. The city council, the chairman of that council would look at that petition, ball it up, and flush it down the toilet, because in the United States, you can't tell another person where to live. In the United States, if a person can afford to live somewhere, if a person has the credit to live somewhere, all they got to do is make the down payment and move in. Make the down payment, sign the contract, and move in. Okay? Gang stalkers don't like that. Gang stalkers don't like a person being able to do as they please based on the resources that they have. I don't care if you make $250,000 a year. I don't care if you make $1 million a year. I don't care if you can afford to live here or if you can afford to buy 10 houses in this community. I don't care if your credit score is 800. I don't care if your credit score is 200. We don't want you here. Okay? That's the kind of attitude that gang stalkers bring to the table with respect to their activity. So let's say this millionaire family moves into this beautiful community, but the residents don't like it. Well, one of the residents happens to be plugged into gang stalking campaigns. And maybe this particular resident has the phone number of some of the other residents in that community. The resident that's plugged into gang stalking might say something to the effect like, who do those people think they are moving into this neighborhood? We don't want those people in this neighborhood. All right, maybe we should make it obvious to them that they're not welcome in this neighborhood, but we got to do it quietly. Okay, we can't throw bricks at their windows at night and bust out their windows. We can't burn crosses in their neighborhood, in their front yard, like they used to do in the 1920s. We can't spray paint their home because that's vandalism. We can't burn their home down because that's arson. That's arson and attempted murder. We can't hire thugs to do anything to them because those thugs might rat us out and get us all in trouble. We're going to have to find a quiet way to get rid of this family. We're going to have to find a clandestine way to get rid of this family. We're going to have to find a way of getting rid of this family that is untraceable. And see, I'm plugged into some gang stalk, and I know some people that can make that happen. So, maybe a scapegoat is created. And after that, an impetus is created by the community. Let's try and make it look as if the father in that family is a pervert or a deviant. That'll help get the ball rolling. That'll be a good starting point for us. So maybe what we'll do is we will find local Girl Scouts and we will point them to that person's home and tell them to knock on that person's door and attempt to sell them Girl Scout cookies. So they find their Girl Scouts, and you know how Girl Scouts are. They're chipper young girls who are excited about participating in a commercial mechanism, and they're typically accompanied by women or other adults. And Girl Scouts oftentimes go door to door in nice communities and try and sell Girl Scout cookies to people. Sometimes they come in to your house and do a presentation as to the benefits of purchasing Girl Scout cookies and the various charitable causes that would be associated with that. So this guy in this community that's plugged into gang stalking decides, you know what, we're going to send some little girls over to this man's house. And don't worry, by the time those girls leave that man's house, we're going to have our pervert. We're going to have our community pervert, and that'll be our starting point. That'll be our scapegoat for getting that man and his family the hell out of this neighborhood, because who do they think they are coming to this neighborhood? Right? So, the guy gets together with some of his other stalker buddies, and they found a willing troop of Girl Scouts and some of their mothers and aunts and grandmothers, and they tell them, hey, look, we're doing a little, they make it sound official. Gang stalkers, when they put together these harassment campaigns, they try to make it sound official to the useful idiots that they're recruiting. So they will go to these people and say, hey, we're doing a community investigation of the people that live on over there in that big white house over there. It's on 1700 Landon Drive. Right? It's the one with the white picket fence, and it's got the big brown mailbox. We want you to send these Girl Scouts over there, and we're going to give you some bugging equipment. We're going to give you some hidden cameras, and we're going to give you some instructions as to what to say to this family when you knock on their door, and we're going to tell you what not to say. We're going to tell you how to conduct yourself, and we're going to tell you how not to conduct yourself when you encounter this family. And feeling as if they are a part of something unique, a part of something special, a part of something worthwhile, a part of something good, because mind you, gang stalkers make what they're doing when they're talking about an organized harassment campaign, they make it sound like the people that are being recruited are participating in something good. Not just something worthwhile, not just something strategic, not just something adventurous, not just something out of the ordinary, not just something that will bring an element of fun to their lives, but something good, something noble, something virtuous. Okay, these are the types of things that stalkers like to convince people that their little dummy missions are for. It's for a good cause, right? So they tell these Girl Scouts and their parents, okay, and mind you, this is a hypothetical scenario I'm drawing here. We're doing a community investigation. We're investigating the family on 1700 Landon. We want you all to use these hidden cameras. They look like ink pens. We want a couple of the Girl Scouts to wear these glasses. They have hidden cameras on them. And we want a few of the mothers accompanying them to carry bugging equipment in their purse, so we can get a live feed of everything that happens in this Girl Scout cookie sales pitch with this family. And this is the time we want you to go. We want you to go Saturday at 12 noon, because that family will be up and about at that time. And we want you to make sure that the dad is present. Feeling as if they're participating in something that is worthwhile, something that is appropriate, something that is helping out the community or the neighborhood, they agree. They don't know they're participating in clandestine or state-sanctioned thuggery. They don't realize they're participating in disenfranchisement. They don't realize that they're participating in organized mobbing mechanisms that have roots in all kinds of thuggery. They don't know they're being tricked. They don't know they're being brainwashed. They don't know they're being lied or deceived. They just think they're helping out their community. Well, we are Girl Scouts. We do sell cookies. These seem like nice people. They're doing an investigation. They have all this nice sophisticated technology they're giving us to help them with it. Maybe we should just go along with this, right? That's all they're thinking. They don't know we're now gang stalkers. All right? So, the date is set, and the afternoon of Saturday approaches, and the Girl Scouts with all their bugging equipment and their hidden cameras, and the mothers with their bugging equipment and their hidden sound equipment march right up to the family's house at 1700 Landon and knock on the door. The family opens the door. The father opens the door, and he sees Girl Scouts with their parents, and they all have big, beautiful smiles on their faces and cheery dispositions. And they say, "Sir, how are you today?" Man of the house says, "I'm doing well. What can I do for you?" The Girl Scouts then chime in on cue. "We're selling Girl Scout cookies. Is it okay if we come into your home and show you what we have to offer? It's for a good cause." The father, who doesn't really eat cookies, but wants to contribute to a good cause, allows the entire troop of them to come into his home. "My, what a beautiful home you have," says one of the parents. "Thank you," says the father, and he sits them on his couch and in various other parts of the living room, and he sits down in his chair as they begin the sales pitch. Now, before arriving at the house, the mothers and the Girl Scouts were given precise instructions by the stalkers who want to get rid of this man. They told them, do things like cross your legs, talking to both the women and the girls. Maybe from time to time get up, stand up, and straighten out your skirt. Maybe one or more of you can, during the presentation, get up, bend down, and tie your shoe in front of the man. Obviously, all ruses or tricks to trying to get this man to look at these women provocatively in some way. Saying to one of the mothers, maybe bend down a little bit. Show him a little cleavage as you unpack the sample box of cookies. Okay? Things like this. All the while the man is being recorded secretly, both with audio and visual equipment. At first, the Girl Scout cookie interview goes well, and the Girl Scouts are talking to the man about the benefits of buying Girl Scout cookies and the charitable causes. And one of the women stands up and says, "Let us provide you with a sample of these Girl Scout cookies." And she bends down, showing the man cleavage as she unwraps the cookie, and the man looks down her blouse because it's impossible not to. And one of the Girl Scouts who has the glasses on, the eyeglasses with the hidden camera on them, catch him looking down the woman's blouse as she unpacks the cookies. Now, this woman could have wore a turtleneck sweater. She could have worn a t-shirt that would have prevented such a scenario, but she intentionally wore a blouse that had a part of it that allows for the viewing of her cleavage when she bends down on purpose, so as to artificially accuse this man of being some kind of a peeping Tom. And not only that, but also during the interview, as he was tasting the cookies, one of the Girl Scouts kind of walks around the living room as if she's just admiring the place, and then inadvertently bends over to tie her shoe, which was conveniently untied for this interview. And the man of the house looks over curiously at her. That is caught on a hidden camera. Next, you had other instances of provocative or slightly provocative behavior from both the mothers and the Girl Scouts in such a way so as to catch this man's attention, and the ruses worked. Now, this is not a pervert. This is not a pedophile. This is a happily married man who allowed a team of saboteurs or agents of chaos into his home to be nice. His family wasn't particularly interested in the encounter, but from time to time the wife would peek into the room, smile, and leave. The kids are going about their business. It's a Saturday, doing what teenagers do. So it's just the husband and the wife home, with the husband making the buying decision. So it's the husband that's being teased, but not so as to flatter him, not so as to make him a customer, not so as to make him a recurring customer, but so as to catch him looking at these women and girls on camera, so as to make him out to be some sort of a neighborhood deviant. So, at the conclusion of the meeting, the man generously agrees to buy $100 in Girl Scout cookies, which was by far their most generous donation of the entire week. They gladly took his money and gave him the Girl Scout cookies, but they have a whole lot of interesting footage of this man that they are going to leave his home and take right to his stalkers, right to his abusers, right to his community harassers, right to his community mobbers, right to his organized stalkers, so that they can review the evidence and try and paint this man as an undesirable person. So, the organized mobbing campaign is in receipt of the video footage. They take the sound equipment and the glasses with the cameras on them, and they thank the Girl Scouts and their mothers, and they send them on their way as they begin to unpack the audio visual evidence of this man acting in a manner that is unbecoming around women and girls. Now, mind you, this man they're investigating, he's never committed a crime in his life. He's never even so much as gotten a traffic ticket from running a red light or running a stop sign. He has always conducted himself in a manner that is conducive with what you would expect of a good father, of a good husband, of a good worker, of a good member of society, and of a good citizen. But he's about to get set up by a number of useful idiot liaisons and stalkers. Not because he's done anything wrong, not because he should be kicked out of the community, but because they just simply don't want him in the community. That is the discipline to understanding the gang stalker mindset. It's not about the law. It's not about rights. It's not about liberties. It's not about freedoms. It's not about your work ethic. It's not about your ability to contribute to society or pay taxes or be productive or even be generous. You can be all those things. If they don't want you, they simply don't want you. And they can use covert clandestine signaling mechanisms to cause you to disappear simply because they don't want you. They don't have to explain why, they just don't want you. And they know how to get rid of you without breaking any identifiable laws. And that's what's happening to this man. You see, this man would never hurt a fly, but he is about to be painted as a tree-jumping sexual deviant pervert by a group of neighborhood persons who simply just don't want him there. That's the discipline. That's the cause. That's the purpose of participating in clandestine gang stalking, imposing your will on other people without incurring punishments from the state. That's it. And there are state-sanctioned mechanisms that help that kind of disgusting thuggery operate. Yes, gang stalking was birthed, it was implemented, and it is continually sustained by corrupt government mechanisms in both our national intelligence and our national security apparatus. Ladies and gentlemen, they took this photo evidence, this audio-visual evidence of this man supposedly looking at these women and girls in a provocative manner, and they Photoshop it to make it look like he's staring at them for prolonged periods of time. They Photoshop the evidence to make it look as if this man is trying to look up underneath the skirts of women and girls. They forge the audio evidence to make this man sound like a pervert. They combine this new footage and they spread it around the community with in DVDs. They drive to every home in that community, in that neighborhood, and put these DVDs, these photoshopped and these edited DVDs of this man in an encounter with Girl Scouts and their mothers. And on the cover of the DVD, it's written, "This man lives at 1700 Landon Street. He's been in this community for about a month now. We have concerns about this person because of how he conducted himself in this Girl Scout meeting. Is this the kind of person we want in this neighborhood?" And then there is, with the DVD, which is encased in an envelope, a separate note that says, "We could take this footage to the police and have them investigate him." Needless to say, a number of the members of that neighborhood, of that community, were not only disgusted but outraged at the perceived behavior of the man at 1700 Landon. As a matter of fact, one day he came home from work and his mailbox was vandalized. Another day he came home from work and saw that there was a dead dog in his driveway. No one saw who did it, so no one went to jail. No one was criminally charged for that act of vandalism and intimidation. But he filed a police report like any good citizen and carried on.